Hello, everybody. This is Pastor David, God Shining Light Youth Pastor. I put out a post July the 4th, and there was quite a bit of response back from it. And I thought maybe due to the level of response, there might be some interest in me doing a little series on teenage bad behavior and what we may be doing in order to enable that bad behavior. Kind of put the feelers out, talked to a few people. There seemed to be a significant level of interest, and so here we go. I'm going to do this via video sessions. That way you guys can go back and replay them anytime or as much as you want to. You can direct other people to them. I'll probably go ahead and attach some notes each time. I've had some people already request the notes be provided, so I will try to go ahead and do that as well. Initially, what I had everybody do that had joined the group was I asked everybody to first do some introspective work, think about where you are before we start down this road of trying to modify our teens' behavior. A lot of times we're doing things that we don't even consciously know that we're doing, and we're doing it out of a guilt reflex or feelings of inadequacy or something like that. And the one thing that I wanted everybody to do before we actually started this series was to get on the same page. And so if you haven't read the original post that's in the Messenger group, I'll just briefly go over that. But what I asked everybody to do was to think back of anything that you've done to hurt your teenager, to create anger or bitterness or resentment in your teenager, maybe something in your past that you did, maybe something that you did yesterday, I don't know. But think back and first of all, forgive yourself for that. Because if you don't approach your teenager from the correct standpoint, then they're smart, they're going to sense that, and they're going to imagine ways to manipulate and use that guilt against you. And you have to remember that you're the parent, you're the one that's paying the bills, you're the one that's providing the essential needs, meeting the needs of the child. And so therefore, you're the boss and you're in control, and things may have been different in the past. You may have been in a different point in your life, a different place in your life. You may have been incarcerated. You may have been at the peak of your addiction or whatever it was that drove that wedge between you and your child. But hopefully now we're past that and looking to a brighter future. And so the way that we move on to that brighter future is we don't allow ourselves to be manipulated by the teenager into a guilt reflex. So in other words, they want to do something, you do not feel like it's the right thing for them to do or the right place for them to be, but then they want to play the guilt card. And then ultimately you end up giving in, they get their way, and now they have another way of manipulating you. So I want you to go back and think about those things and forgive yourself. First, give yourself permission to be the parent. Give yourself permission to be the boss. After that, and by the way, if you haven't repented and asked God to forgive you of those things, then absolutely you need to do that as well. Hopefully most of us are there, but it's harder to forgive oneself. So those two things need to happen. You need to repent, ask God to forgive you for those mistakes, those sins, those hurts, habits, and hangups that you may have already caused in your teenager. And then you need to forgive yourself for those things so that you can move forward from a position of authority, responsibility, and power. So assuming that you've done those two things, the third part of the first assignment was to then sit down with your teenager or teenagers and ask them to forgive you. They need to hear the words come out of your mouth. They need to know that you, one, recognize what problems you caused by your past actions and behaviors. They need to know that you are sorry for that. They actually need to hear you say that. They need to feel that, and it needs to be real. So I would suggest that you set aside some time, if you haven't already done it. Make it a quiet time, make it a private time, make it a very meaningful time, and engage them in an adult conversation where you're coming to them, you're acknowledging the things that you did wrong to upset and cause turmoil in their life, and you're asking for their forgiveness. Now, they may give it, they may not give it. You may get into a long, drawn-out conversation just by starting from a position of asking for forgiveness. And if that happens, I would encourage you to go ahead and let that continue, but make sure that before you get sidetracked in another conversation, make sure that you have been very clear about your asking them for forgiveness for the things that you did wrong. You might also let them know that you feel you've already received forgiveness from God, and you've forgiven yourself for those things, and you would like to have their forgiveness for those things that took place in the past. It's very important that you do this. Number one, it's going to show some acknowledgement to them that you're not just burying your head in the sand and everybody trying to forget what happened. Number two, you're illustrating to them that they're important. You're treating them more like an adult. It's not just get over it because I said so. It's I'm asking you to forgive me for a wrong that I know that I did. You're also setting the foundations for change to take place. They need to understand how much you care about them and how much you love them, regardless of what they may have done or what they may do, that your love is without boundaries, that your love is without condition. And they need to understand that. And part of them understanding that is you acknowledging the wrongs of the past and asking for their forgiveness of those wrongs. Very, very important step. I would say the most important step, actually, in order to having a successful outcome from this series. If you skip that step, I would say, you may get 10% effectivity of the 100% of information that I'm going to share with you, because there's still going to be some unattended to pain inside your teenager. So let's start from that, and hopefully that's done. If that's not done, then I would suggest that you stop this video now. Take care of that. Make sure that happens. Don't do it in a quick way or a fast way. Let's take some time and let them know how important it is to us and how important it is to the relationship. And let's do this right. So if you haven't done that yet, go ahead and stop this video and do it. If you have done it, then I'm going to continue. I want us to all step back for a minute and try to observe our relationship with our teenagers. Ask yourself, are you taking over their responsibilities? Are you taking over their chores when they don't do them? Did you give in to their whining when they had a bad attitude about something? Did you ignore their bad behavior just altogether? Just act like it never happened. Are you giving them additional money after they've already spent their allowance? Do you lie? Do you cover up for them when they do wrong so that they won't get in trouble with other people, maybe at school or somewhere else? Are these the types of things that you're doing? If so, you're actually enabling your teens' bad behavior. Now, there's a lot of other things that we do in order to enable our teens' bad behavior, but that's some symptoms that you kind of need to do a self-check and ask yourself, is that me? If it's me, it's very obvious that you're enabling the bad behavior. Now, you might say to yourself, who, me? Me, I don't do that. Well, yeah, you. I mean, everybody thinks that their kid is an angel and, they don't do wrong and all that. And we're going to get into that a little bit down the road, but there's some reasons for that we kind of need a wake-up call sometimes to understand, and then we'll quit doing that. But because what enabling really means is that a parent may be very well meaning in doing it, but what it actually does is it allows and it encourages their child's irresponsible, inappropriate, and oftentimes destructive or dangerous behavior when we enable them. When we continuously rescue our teenager from their problems and don't let them feel the consequences of their negative behavior, then we've gone far beyond being just protective parents. We're actually damaging them. And at that point, it is definitely time to stop enabling. So here are some reasons, some additional reasons other than just the plain and obvious, that you need to stop enabling your teen's bad behavior. I want you to think about it. Is it really loving to let your teen keep depending on you to rescue them? You just keep the bad behavior going on and going on when we do that. What will happen when they become an adult? Will they have acquired the skills that they need to be successful? No. The answer is no. They're going to continue to be dependent upon the parent to come and rescue them. And maybe you were that person. Maybe as an adult you continue to have to be rescued by a parent or an older person, a mentor or something like that, because people kept enabling your behavior. Well, we have a tendency to, kind of pass that down generationally, and we need to recognize it and stop it. It's very, very important. So that's reason number one. Reason number two, enabling undermines your teen's belief in their own abilities. Now, what do I mean by that? Well, you probably started your enabling behavior for good reasons. You had good intentions. Maybe you were worried about what would happen if you didn't help them out. I know that's been me. There's been several times when I've jumped in and just reminded them repeatedly, you have a test, you must study, you have a test, you got to do good on this test, blah, 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 blah. Instead of just reminding them once and then moving on so that, the consequences happen. Hang on just a moment. Let me pause this.